Hello, thank you all for joining. And we're just going to give an additional minute for a fuller room and then we'll start. But in the meantime, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name and where you're joining from. So please use the chat feature to do so. Thank you. I have the gaffer. You're welcome. You're welcome. Please use the chat to introduce yourself. Let's know where you're joining from, your country and your name. And if possible, add what you expect from this section on branding. Hi, Dr. Mofolo. We're starting in a minute. Hi, Niraja. Thank you all so much. So while we wait for more to join, I think we can kick off right now. My name is Success, and I'm the Leadership Skills and Development Coordinator. It's with utmost pleasure that I welcome you all to today's webinar, the first session on branding for week 6. So look how far you've gone. Kudos to you all for staying here active, engaged from week 1 to week 6. And we have our presenter today. I'm going to be introducing her so that we can get into this webinar right away. So our presenter for today is Ellen Obi. She's a seasoned strategic communication and development professional with over a decade of experience working across Africa to amplify impact, build communities, and shape narratives that drive meaningful change. Her expertise lies at the intersection of storytelling, youth development, and social innovation, with a strong focus on sectors such as education, healthcare, gender equity, and digital inclusion. She's led communication strategies, stakeholder engagement, and brand positioning for mission-driven organizations like Caribou Digital, Leap Africa, Afia Care, and Last Mile Health. Her portfolio includes designing impactful campaigns, launching high-profile reports, developing thought leadership, managing media relations, and spearheading the digital transformation of communication function across diverse sectors. As an alumna of Junior Achievement Nigeria's Venture in Management program, Ellen remains deeply committed to youth leadership and mentorship. She has actively contributed to program panels, alumni engagement initiatives, and youth-centered projects that expand access to opportunities across the continent. Ellen's strength lies in crafting compelling human-centered narratives that bring complex development work to life and drive visibility for purpose-driven organizations. Passionate about African-led solutions, she continues to seek to collaborate, advise, and build communication systems that center voice, purpose, and lasting impact. Thank you so much, Ellen, for accepting our invitation to be the presenter for this year's Academy. It's such a pleasure. And on this note, I would want to hand over the room to you. Thank you, and you're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Success. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? I want to be sure that I'm audible. Success, am I audible? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes,
all right. Hi, everyone. So it's so funny that I'm about to talk about branding. And when I was hearing Success read through my profile, my first thought was, who is that? I'm not sure if that's me, but on another part, it is me. I just need to get used to my profile being read. But also as she was reading through it, I thought if I'm asked to introduce myself just as me without anybody reading profiles, I would say, hi everyone. My name is Ellen, and my who I am is basically a person who is committed to leaving this world a better place than I met it. And I sometimes express that through different things that I do. So the danger with work profiles is that they focus on just work and then they forget that the person is a whole person. So when I'm introducing myself, I hope that I am able to introduce a whole person and not one part of just what I do. So in that bit, because I'm speaking to whole people, I would say while I am focused on leaving this world a little better, that is expressed through different things that I do. One of those expressions is the work that I do that Success has so nicely and graciously read a whole portfolio. But I sometimes also do that through some other parts of life that I live. Um, I have a card, a bunch of affirmation cards that I push out to help people and just generally support mental well-being. I also am a friend. I enjoy spending time with my friends and family. I also enjoy seeing this world. And in an alternate verse, I would have likely been a travel blogger. But somehow I found myself doing a different kind of traveling, which involves engaging and solving problems across the continent. So yes, that is who I am. And I think before we go into this, I'm going to ask us in the chat to drop two words, not one, two words that define who you are. And as we go into speaking about brands, branding, brand identity, we would come back to touch base on how we ourselves are the first brands that need to be branded and developed into a brand identity. So please, in the chat, I am going to be looking as I try to share my screen. Please, everyone, give me two words that define who you are, right? Let's see what words people use. Oh, so Miriam says she's eccentric and passionate. I like that. I love intentional. Intentional is actually one of my favorite words ever. So someone else is intentional. Let's see. Diligent and intentional. Oh, that's very exciting. We only have two. We have a full room. We should have more people. I'd love to hear from more people, please. So I'm happy to take three more. So let's take from three more. Niraja says compassionate. That's a very good one. I would like to be known as compassionate as well. The world is severely in lack of compassion these days, so we definitely need a bit more of that. Two more. I said I'll take three more, so let's have three more share on two words that define them. So in case you missed it, I said if they were going to share two words that define who you are, yes, hardworking and friendly. I like that. We definitely need more friends in this world. One more, just one more person. Oh, I'm a patient person, so I'm going to wait. So we'll have one more before we move on. Dedicated and social. Thank you so much, Patrick, for closing that out for us. So as we go into this session, a few ground rules. One is, I hope this will be a conversation. because whatever we're going to discuss around creating your brand and identity, the technicalities and the knowledge of it cannot be passed in a 1 hour session. So what this is going to be is create a framework of thinking that even as you go about either building your own personal brand or building a brand around the work you do, or even working as a brand manager in the different circles and spheres you find yourself, you would have a working idea of what a brand or branding or brand identity is. So I have a marketing degree and when I'm asked to talk about brand identity in 1 hour, I'm thinking, I went to school for 2 years to be able to learn this. How do I make this a 1 hour conversation? But like I said, what I'm hoping I'm able to do is that we have a conversation to frame what we need to know to help our minds as we build personal brands and organizational brands and also manage such brands. So today, our agenda is going to be looking at understanding brand identity, the foundation of how to build your mission, vision, and values. We're going to look at visual identity elements, and we're going to look at what a brand voice is and developing a brand personality. And I am taking the second part of this session on Thursday. So we'll do just a quick sneak peek into that. And I would open up for questions and answers. So please, we're going to have questions and answers at the end. Like I said, I hope this will be a very interactive session, that if you're going to spend your time here, while I've given you my utmost respect by showing up and being ready to take you through this, I ask that you also extend the same respect by being present and paying attention, and hoping that whatever is shared here, even if you already know it, you're able to take it and apply it into building your own personal brand, as well as building the brand around the work you're doing, the visions you have, or even helping other initiatives or organizations that you're a part of shape and craft their brand identity. So I'm just going to run through why brand identity matters, and the importance of this. If at any point you can't hear me, please, it would help if you raise your hand or speak up, because I can't see the chat, so it would be very helpful if there's any glitch in my internet for you to let me know. So why does brand identity matter? And I'll bring it down to even a practical example as why do we have names? Imagine a world where nobody had a name, right? How would we identify each other? Even in a room of 10 people, you might find that two people have the same feature. So you can't say, oh, call that tall person for me. You can't say, oh, call that mid-height or average size or light-skinned or dark-skinned person for me, especially if you're in a room full of people. But what identity has come to do is it helps us differentiate who we are from one another. So, for example, my identity starts with a name. So I have a name that is almost unique to me, right? I do not know that there's another Ellen Upi anywhere in the world. I haven't seen, but there is a possibility, right? But first, there's a unique identity of a name. Then there are times when I'm not sure if this has happened to all of you, but it has happened to me, where you pick up the phone, you don't even know who is calling, but you hear the voice and immediately you know who is speaking, right? Um, that is to show you that there's also an identity tied to your voice. And sometimes it's as much as you say something in a certain way, and maybe sometimes it's not even you say it. Has this ever happened to you where you're in a room and you hear someone say something and you think, oh, my friend would have said exactly the same thing, or my cousin would have said exactly the same thing? What has happened is that your friend or cousin has a brand identity that you're able to recognize, even when they are not there. You're able to recognize a pattern because they have, over time, influenced you through top of mind awareness, through constant engagement, through repeated engagement and behavior, that you're able to now hold them to certain standard sounds and words that whenever you hear it, you're able to associate it with them. So, why does having a brand identity matter? As people who are building nonprofit organizations or community-based organizations, some of the things that stand out for you is that you need to have a strong brand identity that helps donor engagement, right? You need people to be able to know that this is who you are, this is what you're about, and they're able to associate you to certain sectors or certain problems that you're trying to solve. It's important that as you build this identity, one of the key things you have in mind is a strong sense of how can people associate this thing or this area or this sector with me and the work that I am doing, right? And when you're able to build your identity consistently over time, what you then extend to the general public and benefit is what we call a brand trust, where people now get to trust your brand, where people get to associate your brand with certain things. And that in turn creates a very unique pathway for you when it comes to navigating the sector that we're in. So eventually, having a strong brand would help you differentiate in a very busy sector where people are all headed for the same funds, but your ability to have maintained a brand identity over time helps create that top of mind awareness and creates that brand identity for you within the sector. It also helps you build credibility. So by the time people are able to hear you say something over and over again about who you are, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're even doing it, it creates a certain level of credibility where people are able to recommend you, people are able to vouch for you, and people are able to talk about you even without having engaged or used or engaged your services or products by themselves. So for example, some people have never used, I'm trying to think of a good example, but let me use something as random as maybe an airline. So you've probably never flown with an airline, a particular airline, but you have seen so much ads, so much messaging around this airline that when someone comes to you and goes, "Oh, I would like to take a flight here. I don't know which airline to use." And you quickly go, "Oh, you can try this so and so airline. They go here." Your recommendation is not based on use, it's based on how much you know. And it has been able to build a credibility in your mind about what this airline is able to do in a way that helps you recommend them as if you are a credible source. And it has allowed you build or buy into the trust and engagement that this airline has created. So going from all of this and understanding why having a brand identity matters, we would now look at what a brand identity is and why we should be building one and actively working towards cultivating to ensure that we have strong brand identities. So a brand identity is a visual and verbal representation of your organization. In addition, I'll say yourself. I'm going to quickly check. Oh, okay, just introductions. All right. It's the virtual and verbal representation of your organization, and I will add yourself. It encompasses how you look, which are the virtual elements of a brand, how you sound, which is the voice and tone, how you feel, in terms of your brand personality and values, how you are remembered in terms of how you're positioned and the perception you're able to build in the within the sector and the minds of your target audience. What it's not just is that it's not just a logo. So usually when you hear branding, the first thought is, oh, logo. It's not font and colors. It's not a website. It is a summary of your organization's personality. It sums up your promise to your stakeholders, be it the people who fall under your target audience, the people who support your work, and the people who benefit from your work. And it is essentially your reputation in action. So a brand is a living thing in a sense that it has life and it keeps on living, right? Up until the brand is dead. But for the duration of a brand's life cycle, it has certain things that it expresses to show that the brand is alive. So this is where you talk about positioning, you talk about the perception it has in the minds of people. And the lifeline of a brand is sustained in the minds of people. So essentially, the life or death of a brand depends on the perception that the people who interact or use or fund or support the brand have of the brand, right? Now, quickly moving on, I'm going to try to differentiate between a brand, branding, and brand identity. While we opened up to brand identity, a brand is basically what people think and feel about your organization. And branding is the active word of the actions you take to build a brand. Meaning, branding is what you do to ensure that how people think about you, how people feel about your organization is aligned with who you say you are and what you say you are. And the brand identity is the virtual and verbal element that you create under the action of branding that helps you build and maintain and support the brand that you have in the minds of people. So, and for example, looking at Red Cross, what I have up here is that Red Cross is a trusted brand. So just by way of checking, how many of us in the comment section just identify, have you heard of Red Cross before? Are we there? How many of us have heard of Red Cross before? Okay. Heard of a couple of people have heard of the Red Cross. Oh, you had one in Eswatini. Oh, give me a quick minute. I realized that I might have, let me quickly go back. Okay. I don't want to go too far. Right. So the Red Cross is a trusted brand, right? We trust the Red Cross for what it does, what it stands for. And how has it gained being what we think and feel about them? So when we think of the Red Cross, we think of support, we think of showing up for people. We think that whenever there are areas or sectors in the world where there's a lot of turmoil or a lot of issues happening, you trust the Red Cross to show up. That is the brand. That is what people think and feel about them. Now, how have they done this? What have the actions they have taken to build this brand? They have been consistent in their humanitarian messaging, and they have supported this messaging by creating very distinct and effective programs, by consistent messaging, and by creating a strong sense of showing up and a strong sense in the minds of people of help and support. So what did they use? What is the Red Cross? You find that they have a distinctive Red Cross, which is their brand identity. And what it shows is the virtual element of who they say they are. And they have embodied this by showing up and supporting their actions with their messaging consistently. Now, the brand identity ecosystem is comprised of various things. When you think of the foundational elements of the brand identity ecosystem, we think of mission, vision, values. We think of purpose and goals. When we think of the verbal identity, we think of the voice, tone, and messaging. We think of key messages that define who the brand is and what the brand is about. When we think of virtual identity, we think of the logo, the colors, the typography, images, and graphics. And then we think of how we apply all of these things consistently across different touch points, right? So in a sense, for you to build a brand identity ecosystem, you start from the foundation elements where you decide what is my mission, what is my vision, what is my value, what guides this work I do, what is my mission as a person, what is my vision as a person, what are my values as a person. Why do I exist? What is the purpose to my existence? What is the purpose to this organization's existence? And what are the goals in the strong sense of what is this organization set out to achieve? Then my verbal identity complements my foundation elements in the sense that my voice will be in line with my values, with my vision, with my mission. My tone will be aligned with my goals and how I intend to achieve them based on how I sound. My messaging will be complementary of my mission, vision, values, purpose, and my goals. And my key messages will be directly crafted from the goals I have as a person. And my virtual identity will be aimed at taking both my verbal identity, my foundation element, and putting them in a way that the logo, colors, and typography are representative of who I say that I am and provide a clear picture for everybody that I am exactly who I say that I am. And in the same vein, when you think of the imagery and graphics, they should be complementary with the brand story that you're telling. Now, when you've built your brand identity, it's in application after you've built the foundation, you've decided on the verbal identity, you've decided on the virtual identity. One of the key things you need to do is to ensure that you have guidelines and standards to ensure that people do not talk about your brand or engage with your brand in a way that is not aligned to who or what you say you are. And then you also need to be consistent across all the different brand touch points. You cannot say that you are one thing and then do another. You cannot say, as an organization, we're committed to loving everybody. And then in turn, your employees are not in any way feeling like they are loved, or that creates a misalignment in your brand identity and your brand experience. And your brand is a combination of both your brand experience that you create to people as well as your brand identity. So I'm going to go further into the foundation that I had laid, which is basically some of your foundation elements are your mission, your vision, your values, right? Your structures and your processes and your goals. So when we look at the golden circle approach, the golden circle approach has three questions. Why do we exist? Which answers your purpose and your mission. How do we fulfill our purpose? Which answers your values and your approach. And what do we do in order to meet up why we exist? That's where your services and your programs fall under. So, for example, at the food bank, their mission is that no one should go hungry. And they are achieving this through community-driven, dignified food access. And what they're doing to ensure that nobody goes hungry is that they're distributing food and carrying out nutrition education. So the Golden Circle approach essentially says that for you to exist, you need to answer these three questions. Why do we exist? How do we fulfill our purpose? And what do we do in the fulfillment of this purpose? So in looking at how to write your mission statement, I had drawn up a framework here, which is we, what we do, for who you do it, and how you do it to expect these outcomes. So good mission statements have the following elements. They're clear and understandable, they're inspiring and memorable, they're specific to our work, and they're actionable and achievable. So I'm going to go through two mission statements and using this framework of what you do, who you serve, how you do it, and the impact and outcome. So looking at Habitat for Humanity, what they do is they bring people together. And who do they serve? I mean, it's a given to show here that they serve people who do not have homes or have where to stay. And how do they do it? They do it by bringing people together to build homes, communities, and hope. And the impact in turn is reducing the amount of homeless people we have and bringing hope to the hearts of people. Another example is what you do is we empower at-risk youth through mentorship and skills training to break circles of poverty. So what you do is empowering young people, and who they serve is young people and their communities. And how they do it is they empower at-risk youth through mentorship, skills, and training. And the end goal or the outcome is the break of the circle of poverty. Now, I'm going to get us to do, using this mission statement framework. I'm conscious of my time because I do want us to spend some time in questions and answer. Can we quickly go into the chat? And using this framework, I would like to see two mission statements. It can be your personal mission statement or the mission statement for your organization. And we can use those statements and put them up against this framework to see how you've been able to craft this. So I'm giving us a minute for this exercise. So using this framework, what you do, or I, what you do, for who you serve. If it's yourself, you put it there, by how you do it or how the organization does it. And two, impact or outcome, meaning what do you get out of it? What is the end goal? And what do others, and if it's for an organization, what is the impact or the outcome that you have? So we have a minute. I'm looking forward to reading your answers, and I'm in the chat box. All right, waiting for the first person who will send their mission statement framework. All right, Mercy Wings Foundation is dedicated, what you do, to empowering communities, which is what you do, who you serve, by uplifting underserved populations through, okay, and we see very clearly who you serve and how you do it through holistic healthcare, education, and mentorship. And your impact is an empowered community. So this is actually a very powerful mission statement because it really does meet the criteria of what you do, who you serve is identified in here, how you do it is identified in here, and the impact you have is stated very much at the beginning. Well done, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing. Do we have anyone else who has something to share? I would take one more. No, thank you, Michael, for responding. Who else? Oh, Niraja, we are a collective of people passionate about teaching and mentoring students beyond their classroom. So what we do, we teach and mentor who we serve, students, how you do it, beyond, okay. So how you do it is teaching and mentoring, and the impact is, okay, so go. So what is the impact? So I think for this one, something that is missing would be the impact. So I see what you do. which is mentoring. I see who you serve, students, and how you do it by teaching and mentoring beyond their classroom. But I can't see what the impact or the end goal of this activity is, right? But I do hope that with these two examples, we have a clear sense of what a good mission statement should look like. And going on from here, we're also looking at defining your vision statement. So when we look at your mission, now we're looking at vision. So the vision usually is a change you want to see. And I would say my vision is a world where every mind is healthy. That is my vision. A world where every mind is healthy. And the characteristics of such a word of vision is that it's typically aspirational, it's future focused, it's inspirational and motivating, it's ambitious yet believable, it's aligned with your mission. So if I say that I want a world where everybody's mind is healthy. What that means is that I need to ensure that it's aspirational. And I think that's a very aspirational goal, especially in light of the despair in the world. It's inspirational and motivating. I do hope that we're motivated to ensure that or we're motivated by the fact that there's a possibility that people can live non-sad lives. And it's ambitious yet believable. I guess maybe this might be a place where people have differing thoughts, but you should be clear about who your organization is and what it is looking to achieve, and that it's aligned with your mission. So, for example, Oxfam's vision is a just world without poverty, right? And if we're going to look at what an Oxfam's mission statement should be, it might likely look, sorry, I moved on too quickly again, and I need to go back. Okay, so I was here. So what that would look like again would be that we have, okay. What it would look like would be that, oh, sorry, this went back again. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. Okay, so healthy communities. So if we're going to look at Oxfam's vision and then turn it into their mission will look something like at Oxfam, what do you do? So they want a world without poverty. So their mission statement can look something like we work to eradicate poverty for people in underserved and unreached communities. And we do this through empowerment programs, through mentorship, through education policies, or through the establishment of entrepreneurial education. And through these programs, we're able to change the lives of different underserved communities, one beneficiary at a time. That turn the vision statement into an actionable mission statement that supports the vision of the organization. So moving on from vision statement, we're going to quickly breeze through core values and understanding that every fundamental belief that guides your organization is your core values. It's not just the nice things you put on your website, because then those are not your core values. That's just content. At the core of it, the thing with brand identity is that you can't say one thing and be another thing. What you say has to be in total alignment with who you are and what you do. So it is super important that you can't say you're an organization that thrives on humility, but within the organization and even how you approach your funders and engage with your partners, there is no sense of humility in it. So your fundamental beliefs that guide your organization are what your core values are. Sometimes this looks like common ones we see: integrity. Almost everybody has integrity. Almost everybody has excellence. You find some of these things, and they begin to sound like buzzwords. But the idea is that your values should be what guides you as a person and your organization. And they're the guiding principles that ensure that your mission and your vision will come to pass. So just as a sidebar, even as we try to round this up, I really want to give enough time for questions and answers, is that you need to, as you build your brand identity is not for yourself. Your brand identity is for others. So your name is not for yourself. You know yourself. I don't wake up every morning and scream my name to find me. But if I needed to find someone, I would probably shout their names because I'm trying to find them. But I don't need that for me. So the idea is, because brand identity is not for you, brand identity is for others. And in the grand scheme of things, you want to tailor your brand identity to your stakeholders, which is typically for the sector that we're in, is usually your beneficiaries or your community members. It's either your donors and your funders, your volunteers and your staff, your partner organizations, or government and government regulators who make up your primary audience and are very helpful with ensuring that your that that your like the work you're doing is relevant and on course. So usually it's advisable that as you build your brand identity, you have your stakeholders in mind. And usually this is a mix of what is their demographic, what are the characteristics of this demographic, what are their motivations and goals, what are their pain points and challenges, what are their communication preferences, and what are their values and priorities. So the whole idea of doing this is to ensure that you're well aligned with your stakeholders, that your brand identity is well aligned with your stakeholders and tells the same message across board. So, looking at the power of a virtual identity, it's super important that even as I say the most important part of your brand identity is who people say you are based on how people feel when they engage with you. Another part of it is the virtual identity that comes with the brand. So you need to pay attention to your logo, to your word mark, to your color palette, to your typography, to your imagery, to your graphics and icons, to your layout and composition. It is super important that your virtual identity is clear and is very reflective on who you are and what you say that you're doing. Now, moving on from the virtual identities to the brand voice. Initially, when we started, I gave the analogy that sometimes our brand is beyond our name, it's also in our voice. It's such a warming thing when sometimes you pick up a call and you call somebody and you know they do not have your phone number, but they pick, or they don't have the number you're using, but they pick and their first word is, maybe they identify you by your voice and they go, "Why are you calling me on a different number?" The idea is that voices are also unique. Voices, the way you say a thing, how you say a thing, they're all very critical to forming the brand identity. So what is your brand's voice that fits into the brand identity? It's usually expressed through an organization's choice of word, tone and attitude, communication style, or their messaging style. And typically the brand voice attributes, it's usually built around the different attributes. You could choose to be professional, you could choose to be casual, you could choose to be playful, you could choose to be serious, you could choose to be formal or authoritative. but it all comes down to the different elements within your brand identity that helps shape your voice, and knowing the kind of audience you have and who your primary audience is. It also serves to shape your voice a lot. So some of the some ways in which we can build both a voice guideline as well as personal mantras is some voice tones are encouraging and they are focused on lifting people up. Some are empowering because they believe in the potential of people. But at the end of the day, you have to ensure that your brand voice is aligned with your brand identity. And just as we round up, because my goal was to round up in with 10 minutes left for a question and answer. Like I said, we cannot finish the entire branding conversation in 40 minutes, or in this case, 45 minutes, but we can create a framework. And next, we're going to be looking at creating a branding guideline. So when we come back on Thursday, we're going to look at what a brand guide is, how you can define your tone and your voice, how to build a brand guidelines toolkit, and how to ensure consistency across your different brand touchpoints, and how to measure your brand reach as it continues to evolve. I'm happy to define some of these terms. I also know that I don't think I'm speaking to a room full of communications professionals, but if there are any terms or terminologies I've used so far that you would like some more context or for me to deep dive in, that would be great. So I'm assuming that we do have questions and we're going to go right into that session. And your questions don't have to be tailored to just the presentation so far, but they can also extend to any questions you have about branding yourself, as well as branding your businesses and your organization. So I'm going to make this open and hand over to you. I'm not sure if this webinar feature allows you to unmute to ask questions, but if that's not possible, I look forward to your questions in the chat, and I would do my best to answer and give you some very clear or some direction or some information for you to be able to use as you build your own personal and organizational brands. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Yes, at this time, they're not able to unmute, but you can raise your hand if you really want to speak, or you can also use the Q&A or the chat to send in your questions. So we have one in the chat. Can you say it from Alfred?
Yes, so thank you, Alfred. Yes, every profitable business or foundation needs to build its brand, because the reason you're profitable and will continue to be profitable is highly dependent on the strength of your brand, right? So I'm trying to think of a brand that and your brand building is not advertising. So usually sometimes when you say I want to brand, people are thinking, oh, I want to run adverts, right? And some people are thinking, oh, is my brand is what I basically just my external activities. But that is not typically the goal. The goal of a brand or branding or building your brand identity is that, one, you're creating consistent messaging. Two, you're creating top of mind awareness and creating memorability in the minds of your target audience and potential customers. And three, you're able to build brand trust and equity in a way that keeps you relevant within the ecosystem. So even the world's biggest organizations still have a form of branding, either to ensure that they are consistent or continue to stay top of mind. Um, thank you so much, and I hope that I was able to answer your question, Alfred. But moving on to pressures. You said you have always thought that the logo and colors and brands and flyers is branding enough, but no. So the one thing, like I would always say, is that all the things you write on your website, if people don't experience them when they engage with your brand, either they engage with your brand on social media or they engage with your brand in person. And particularly with when you're building small things, when I say small things, when you're building organizations or community-based projects and all of that, you are the first brand that represents all that you say. So if it's not reflective in you or reflective in your communication, then you're not branding, because branding is bringing the things you say into a physical sort of manifestation and ensuring that when people engage with that, they are able to leave, and whatever they leave with after their engagement with you is what you have succeeded at passing on as your brand, right? You said, okay, Niraja says an example of a company that you think has a very good mission statement in the world of branding. Who do I think has a good mission statement? Um, Let me see. I think I have some really good ones that let me just quickly stop sharing. But there's some that I truly enjoy, just um from the top of my head. Let me see. I'm trying to be specific because I have an organization in mind. Uh, but there's so many of them. So let me see. Okay, and I think for me the combination, right? Typically, it's not just the mission statement, but it's usually how can I defend that these organizations that I say I like their mission statement are also actively doing the things that they say. So I think for me, I like Tesla, right? And not because I own a Tesla. I don't own the Tesla yet. That's a keyword. I don't own a Tesla yet. But I like Tesla's mission. And Tesla's mission statement is to accelerate the world's transition to renewable energy. And some of the reasons I really like it is because it speaks to the brand's commitment to the environment and changing the automobile industry. So when it says it wants to accelerate the world's transition to renewable energy, you find that while, I mean, I live in Nigeria, and Nigeria is quite far from having renewable or having cars that run on electricity, thereby reducing our dependence on fuel and carbon emissions. But Tesla is actively working towards ensuring that that is happening through the cars that they create. And while in a more developed world, you have a range of Tesla cars from low budgets to the really expensive ones, but they are actively staying true to the fact that they came into a space and decided to create energy saving cars and are leading in that conversation when it comes to creating automobiles that have alternate source of power. So I really like that about Tesla, because for me, I can match Tesla's mission to the work that they do. Um, Alfred says, can you start a business first and create a brand after, or you have to build and create both simultaneously? I definitely think you should have a brand identity first and then continue to refine it. So these things are not static. You find sometimes that organizations that are 30 years, 100 years are still coming back to recreate their brand. So I think it can happen both, but it's always advisable to have created your brand identity first. So okay, you said, can we write a so your brand is actually who you say you are, but it's also your job to ensure that who you say you are and what people experience is the same thing. So yes, you can write out your brand identity and paste it anywhere, but the goal is that you're truly who you say you are when people are able to say that that is who you are. So pasting it is not enough. Leaving it is actually the end goal. So that brings me to the last of my questions. Thank you so much. You've been a very engaging class. I've enjoyed answering your questions. I've enjoyed speaking with you. I hope you've enjoyed hearing me speak as well. But yes, I would hand over to Success now as we're at the top of the hour. Over to
Thank,
you, Success.
thank you so much, Ellen. We have one in the Q&A. I'm just going to read it
Okay.
quickly. He says, thank you so much for taking us through this topic. Very insightful. Please, how do we apply branding to community-based organizations? What section does branding belong in CBO?
Okay, so I mean, at the end of the day, branding is actually very critical for CBOs. The thing with communities is that people know you and you know them. That is why you become the first brand, right? So if I'm coming to you, if I grew up in a community and I was known for lying, and I come to this community to tell them that I'm bringing all this help, or there's this money that has come and we're supposed to use it to manage certain projects in the community. My brand identity with the community matters because they either trust me or they distrust everything I'm saying. So at the core of it, CBOs have the greatest need for having defined brand identities. It might not go all the way of having a logo, a color palette, but it goes all the way to say, who do you say you are? What do you say you stand for? And how are people able to stand and say that this is exactly what this person stands for? Whether we like it or not, we are all brands. You as an individual, you're a brand. You have a name, you have an identity, you have a voice, you have a tone, you have what you're known for, and you have a purpose. So when you take this approach and you're building community-based organizations or bringing solutions to communities, it is very important that who you say you are and what you say you are very similar. And then using that as a base, because community-based projects are built on a lot of trust to be able to thrive and work. Then you're able to build on that to be able to implement and achieve success within your communities. All right. I hope that
Thank
helps.
you. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ellen. It's always a pleasure. I've been listening to you from the start, and really, it's nice hearing you speak. Don't know if you've heard that comment before. Your flow of words is really good. Thank you very much for your time and the very insightful session. And we look forward to seeing you on Thursday again to go through creating a brand guide. And as we are at the top of the hour, I'll leave your last words for the next session because that would be when you might see most of them for the last time. All right.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
So I'll see everyone on Thursday. Thank you so much for your time. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.